Alright y'all, today's video is going to be how I did my Chancellor Palpatine robes. So like my other videos, it'll be a step-by-step tutorial how I piece all this together. It'll include the pants, the undershirt, the sash that comes down the center, as well as the sleeves, and then his outer robe here. So let's get started. So I'm using Finn for this particular one just because he is dirt cheap and the body works well. So we're going to start with the pants. The pants, if you look at this, at least on this particular character, I always kind of start up high on the waist. Like I said, I always give myself extra room. So here's our basic pattern. As you can see, I've got a little space here at the bottom. So what we're going to do first, now that we have our basic pattern, is we're going to taper the pants so that it has that finished look. So we're first going to lay it out, measure him up, see how much space I have. I've got about 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 inch down here at the bottom. So I'm gonna essentially just fold this back and gonna sew it on either side. That way my pants will have that finished look at the bottom. So we're gonna start with that. Okay, we'll go from there. So now that I have that sewn, we've got on both sides, kind of hard to tell, but so it's gonna have a nice clean finish on the end. So we're gonna do it inside out because this is the side that we want to show. This particular fabric I got at Joann's. Like I said, I get most of my fabric from Joann's. They've got a good selection. The color scheme that I'm going for is the Hot Toys version of this action figure, except he doesn't have, the Hot Toys doesn't have the black. That's actually from the movie, but in terms of the actual physical color of the pants and the robe, that's what the Hot Toys version has. So I'm kind of copying it, but like I said, the black is from the actual outfit he wore in the movie. So now that I have my hem sewn, I'm going to lay my figure down and I'm going to cut my seam from my crotch right up the middle. Now that I have that, same as before, I'm going to start here. I'm going to go up, and as I go up, I'm going to taper because the waist is, of course, obviously a little bit too wide. So start on the edge, and as you go up, taper. Do that on both sides, and then once I have that done, I'm going to start in the middle, follow my line, my seam, my cut up the crotch. When I get a little bit past the crotch, I'm going to curve it around and bring it back down. So I'm going to go ahead and get this sewn. Okay, so now that I've got my pants sewn, I'm going to go back. I'm going to make my little incision at the top for the waist. Cut that on both sides. And then I'm just going to go and cut off all of that excess in there. So get rid of all that, and then I'll flip them inside out, put them on the figure, and see what it looks like. So we got the pants on, and they look perfect. So I know I wanted to bring them up here, but it's fine. So they look good. They got a nice finished look at the ankles, you know, down at the bottom. So happy with that. Next we're going to do the shirt. Now here's the thing with the shirt. So the sleeves are going to be sewn separately and glued or attached here at the shoulder, and then this outer robe covers up all of that so you don't see it. So for the shirt, it's basically going to be like a t-shirt. You're not gonna bring it all the way out. You don't need to. You could honestly even do it up all the way up to the shoulders. I personally give myself always a little extra space, you know, and I can always cut it back as needed. So I'm just gonna do it like a t-shirt. So same thing, same pattern. It's kind of like a mini cloak. Lay them out. Always give yourself extra room on the sides and extra room in the sleeves, just in case you need it. So I'm gonna go ahead and sew up and over over, up and over, and then I'll cut my arm or my head hole, and then I'll flip it inside out, and we'll get this put on and we'll see what it looks like. Okay, so I've got my seam sewn. Looks good. So now I'm gonna go ahead and cut off the excess slack, and I'll just do my neck hole real fast. You want to do the neck hole super, super tiny. I mean, it does not have to be big at all, because that little slot, that's perfect. So just the tiniest little sliver off the top. At the end, I'm gonna put a collar on him. It's hard to tell in the video with the light because it's black, but there'll be a collar that goes all the way around, so it'll cover up anything. But so let's go ahead and cut off this extra slack now and flip it inside out and put it on. Basically, it looks like a little t-shirt. Now, the thing with the shirts, I've had some people ask me, you know, am I doing it wrong or this and that? So they go on super tight. It's honestly like pretty tough. The easiest thing, just squeeze the arms together as tight as you can get it. Fish it up through. And some fabric goes on easier than others. But essentially, you just kind of have to fight your way onto the figure. I'm going to go ahead and pause so I don't spend 10 minutes here videotaping this. But essentially, yeah, just squeeze the arms together as tight as you can. Get it up through. And once you get it through, then tilt the arms and run out through the sleeves, and then pull it down right around. Okay, so I got the shirt on, but as you can see, it's a little long. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take it off, and I'm gonna trim it up, because we really want the shirt to be about there, because that sash is gonna go around the waist, and it's gonna hide this seam altogether, as well as your pants. So you want those to line up just above his waistline. So as you can tell, mine's a little bit too long. So I'm gonna take it off, take about an inch off of it, and then I'll put it back on, and we'll go from there. So that's much better. So now when I put my sash across the waist, it'll hide this altogether, and you won't see it. So the next step is going to be the sleeves. So in the movies, his shoulders are like puffed out. Not because he has huge biceps or anything, it's just the way his outfit looks. So to get that effect, what you're gonna do is cut your fabric like this. So this will be the end of the sleeve, and you're gonna come along, but then you're gonna widen it. This is gonna be up at the shoulder. So when you put it on him, it has that bulge. And what you're gonna do for that is literally just take cotton balls, rip them apart, and shove a bunch of cotton balls down in there. Give it that big bulge effect, and once you do that, then you're just gonna glue the sleeve right along the shoulder line. You can use hot glue, super glue, whatever you want to use, but you're gonna literally just glue it on right there. And then you can kind of just use your fingers to play with the cotton balls, push them up, but essentially then it gives it that kind of bulged look. So let's go ahead and sew these sleeves real fast. This is, like I said, this is the pattern you want, just kind of like a taper. So what I'm going to do first though, before I sew them, I made them extra long so that I can give the cuffs a finished look. So I'm going to first fold this over, sew this shut, and then once that's sewn, then I'll go back and sew the sleeve. So it'll have a nice finished look to it, and it won't look like cut fabric. So let's go ahead and do that real fast, and then we'll put them on the figure and size them up. Alright, so like I said, this is going to be your basic pattern, sewn, and then you're going to flip it inside out. I use a paintbrush to help push it through. I mean, you can use your thumbs too, but paintbrush works pretty well. So So essentially that's going to be the sleeve. Now this is kind of the look that you'll want to go for. So you put it on, and then like I said, just take cotton balls, shred them up like that, and then shove them down in there. So it gives that kind of puffy look to the shoulders. So that's what he had in the movie. So that's the look we're going for. So I'm gonna do the other arm and stuff it, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so for the next part, we've got the arms on, and I'll go back and I'll glue them down later. But for now, and I mean, you can stuff it with as much cotton as you'd like. I just wanted to put a little in there to give you all the effect. So basically, you know how it tapers. You can see it tapering. But when you glue them, you're going to want to glue them right up, you know, past the shoulders, like right on, you know, the base of his neck there, like that. You don't want to glue them down here. So make sure you get them pushed up right at the top there, and that's where you'll glue them. So for the next part, we're going to do this middle sash. This is the trickiest part of the whole robe, in my opinion. This particular part took me the longest to figure out, but now that I figured it out, it's pretty easy. So this is the pattern you want to cut. I'm using a velvet, can't really tell, but I really like the effect the velvet gives to the soft goods. Really makes them stand out and pop. So this is the pattern you'll want to cut. Basically, you want to start right at the base of the neck, and you want it to run right down to the base of the shoes. So that's the length. Now, what I did first is, before I made this incision, I went along and I sewed these. So that way, we've got that nice flush edge. So once I sewed those at the bottom, then I just sized him up, and you want it to come right basically to the middle of the torso. So I made my cut right up the middle. From there, basically the top here, you're going to want to cut over so you have an incision on either end. So what you're going to do first is fold this down, and with this part I recommend glue because it is really hard to try and sew that little, you know, it's like your fingernail, it's not very big. So a little glue will hold, but what you're going to do first is sew the top down like so that you have a nice flush edge at the top. Once you do that, with your slits here, you're gonna, at an angle, it's kind of hard to tell, you're just gonna fold them over and glue it like that. Same at the top, fold it over and glue it. So when it's done, it'll be like a triangle. My velvet's starting to come apart, but I'm gonna go ahead and glue this real fast, and then we'll go to the next step. Once you, real quick, once you glue the corners, I guess, and you have the top glued down, if you have extra over on the side, just fold it in and glue that as well. If your corner and your top line up and meet, there's no need to glue it. So that's just if you have a lot of excess in there. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these, and then we'll work on the sides and the center. Alright, so now I've got that glued. As you can see, I did the edge, did that other edge, that edge, the top, and then I went ahead and just did the sides as well. Sorry about the light, but so you can see it. Now, remember to use your glue sparingly, because this velvet is awful with the light, but if you go overboard, you're gonna get that glue and it's gonna bleed through, and then it's gonna come through, and basically you'll have to scrap the whole piece and start over. So now that I've got that done, the next part I'm gonna do is the inner. So for this, you want to give it that pointed, so you want it to come up to a nice point and come back down. To get that effect, from your incision that you made straight up, all you're gonna do is I would just put a little piece of glue right there and fold it over like so. So you fold it over at an angle like that, and then you're just gonna run it straight down. And you're gonna, once you have it glued there in the corner, then you can just run your seam straight down with your sewing machine. But then essentially gluing it like that will give you that rounded edge look. So it'll come together. So I'm gonna go ahead and glue my corners, run my seam down, and then once I do that, I'm gonna know essentially how much room I have left width-wise. So from there, I'll put it on the figure and see how much width I've got left, and then I'll just kind of size it up. But from there, I will go ahead and sew the other side down. So when it's all said and done, it'll be a nice clean sew all the way down. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, sew the sides, and then we will start work on the outer part of the robe. Alright, so we got that done. Looks good. Looks clean. Looks finished. So, doesn't look so good from the back, but like I said, all you gotta see is the front. So, basically, I'm not gonna glue it on yet, but like I said, it's gonna go right below the neck, and then it's gonna hang basically right over the feet. So it looks good. I like it. So now we're gonna move on to the jacket. Okay, so for the outer robe, this is the pattern you want to cut. Essentially, just like that. So when it sits on it, it looks like that. You fold it open. This is the shoulders. I went ahead and already sewed the seams at the bottom on both sides just to save myself the time, shorten the video a little bit. So essentially, once you have that cut, or excuse me, once you have the seam sewn and you've got the height you want, you're going to cut up to the top and then, you know, put it on him, make sure it looks good, make sure they're lining up at the bottom. So for this, it's going to be the same concept that you did on the sash part. You're going to take the neck and you're going to fold it like that, and then run your seam down so it's straight. But then your neck will have a nice curved angle to it, so that, so that when you put it on, it goes nice all the way around the back. So once you have that, fold it over, sewn both sides. At that point, make sure you sew it inside out again. At that point, you're going to sew the sides. So I'd start at the bottom, and you're going to want to sew up till about, let's say, 1.5 inches from the top. And don't just stop here and cut. Actually sew and come out so that your seam goes all the way off. Because then when you flip it inside out, it will be sewn together. And what you'll do is, at that point, you're just gonna turn this. Sorry, I'll just do it from this side. You're gonna turn it so that, and glue it on the inside so that it looks nice and clean all the way around. So I'm going to go ahead and do all that. Once again, fold this over, sew down both sides. Once I do that, I'm going to flip it inside out. Start at the bottom, sew up, stop 1.5 inches, and then flip it inside out and glue this around so that when I flip it this way, I'll have that nice seam. Alright, so now that I've got it all sewn, I've got my seam down the center, got my seams down the side. When I flip it inside out, we have a cloak. But, like I said, we still got to do the shoulders. So, for those, like I said, just flip that inside out like that, and you're going to glue it just like that. And then that way when you flip it right back, it looks finished. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real fast. Alright, so we got the robe done. The shoulders, the arms, they look finished, they look good. So all that we have left to do is cut another piece of this fabric, sew it around the midsection there, not sew it, but glue it around the midsection so it covers up that seam. Once you have that done, put the right amount of stuffing or cotton balls that you want in the shoulders, glue them in place. Once those are glued in place, you're going to attach the mid sash right there and just glue it right down on the neck. Once you have it glued in place, then all you got to do is put the jacket on. And that is how you make the Chancellor Palpatine robes. So if you liked the video, go ahead and like it. Send me a comment if you have any questions. But other than that, it's pretty simple. Take your time and don't rush it. So, Cube City out.